A Dance with Death, Calamities, Lesson 6. John Davis can't shake the guilt. It was his idea to go to that hotel dance. If only he had picked another place. It was a Friday night in the mid-July. John and Judy Davis felt like celebrating before they left for their vacation. John suggested the Hyatt Regency Hotel, where they could dance to big band music popular in the 1930s and 40s. The Davises asked their best friends, Larry and Suzanne Watson, to join them. John remembered telling them that it might be their last chance that summer to go to a tea dance. The Hyatt in Kansas City, Missouri is an elegant 40-story hotel. And like other hotels in the Hyatt chain, it has a spectacular atrium lobby. Sky bridges suspended from the ceiling span across the soaring atrium. Guests cross the bridges to go to their rooms or to attend meetings on the other side of the building. Walled in by glass, the 4-story atrium was the perfect setting for the hotel's popular tea dances. The dances were held every Friday from 5 to 8 o'clock. On July 17, 1981, about 2,000 people dressed in evening gowns and tuxedos filled the Hyatt lobby. They danced, drank, and talked as the Steve Miller Orchestra played jazz tunes. When the Davises and their friends arrived shortly before 7 p.m., there was a dance contest going on. They saw people dancing on 2 of the narrow sky bridges. Other people were on the bridges watching the crowd below. John made his way to the bar next to the dance floor to get some drinks. Suddenly, he heard a snapping sound like a gunshot. The noise silenced the crowd. Everyone looked up. In seconds, the 4th-floor bridge buckled in the middle and crashed onto the 2nd-floor span. Then, with a loud roar, the 2 bridges dropped to the lobby. The 3rd-floor bridge, which was 15 feet farther from the glass wall, did not collapse. People on the skywalks went flying in all directions. Some tried to hang on to the sections of the bridges ripped from the walls. Chunks of concrete, glass, and steel rained on the lobby. Huge dust clouds and gas fumes filled the air. The scene was horrifying. One witness said it looked like a bomb exploded. Hundreds of people were pinned under slabs of concrete, and many were dead. All over the room, dancers were piled on top of one another. And the chaos worsened when the water pipes burst, flooding the lobby floor. When the shower of debris stopped, the screams could be heard. Many people needed immediate medical attention. Others called out the names of their loved ones and friends. Carol Hill lay in a fetal position with her friend's head resting on her shoulder. She heard him moan and touched his neck to feel for a pulse. "I felt him die," she said. John Davis found himself on the floor. His leg was pinned, and he could see a pool of blood. He didn't know where his wife and friends were. Rescue units arrived at the Hyatt within minutes of the disaster. They found some survivors wandering in the lobby, dazed and bleeding. With blowtorches, chainsaws, and jackhammers, rescuers struggled to free those trapped. But they had to move concrete boulders and twisted beams. Because the concrete was so heavy, progress was slow. Construction cranes were brought in to remove the skywalks. They were lifted inch by inch to guard against any sudden movement. One firefighter said he saw people lying everywhere. Some were begging me to get them out, he said. In some places, the debris was 6 feet deep. About 1,000 police, doctors, firefighters, and bystanders joined the rescue effort. Doctors set up a makeshift hospital on the sidewalk outside the hotel. In the lobby, medical teams gave emergency blood transfusions. Bystanders not only helped comfort the injured, but also helped to move debris. 25 ambulances and a helicopter made repeated trips to local hospitals. As more bodies were recovered, an exhibit hall at the hotel became a temporary morgue. Rescue teams worked tirelessly at the scene for 13 hours. Every time they found a survivor, they cheered. The discovery of another body brought only silence. A police sergeant said he didn't think the nightmare would ever end. He saw too many black bags containing bodies. I must have asked 1,000,000 times that night, "Is this the last one?" 10 survivors were trapped until 6 o'clock a.m. They were the last ones found alive. A little later, cranes lifted another huge piece of concrete. 31 bodies were underneath. The Hyatt disaster killed 114 people and injured more than 200. Judy Davis and Larry Suzanne Watson were among the dead. John Davis, who suffered a broken back, was interviewed at the hospital the day after. He hadn't been told yet about his wife and 2 friends. Hyatt officials closed the year-old hotel and began their own investigation. They ordered that the 3rd-floor walkway be torn down. Building experts examined that bridge and the wreckage, looking for clues. They had been told shortly before the collapse the bridges were swaying and shaking. Some officials suggested the bridges couldn't handle the extra weight and movement of the dancers. 6 months after the disaster, the National Bureau of Standards issued a report. It found that the design of the walkways was flawed. For some reason, the original design had been changed during construction. The 2nd-floor bridge was supposed to be suspended from steel rods attached to the ceiling. Instead, the rods were attached to the 4th-floor skywalk. That change made the 4th-floor bridge bear too much weight. It was a small detail, said Edward Frang, who led the investigation, and yet it killed more people than any other building failure in the U.S. Fang also said the dancers' movement did not cause the bridge collapse. In October 1981, the Hyatt Regency reopened its doors. The skywalks had been rebuilt, but they were now supported by pillars instead of steel rods. The survivors, meanwhile, filed lawsuits against the Hyatt Company. By 1983, they had been awarded $86 million in damages, and more lawsuits were pending. It was a difficult recovery for many. Besides physical pain, tea dance victims had also suffered emotional scars. Survivors like John Davis felt guilt. Others experienced anger, loss of appetite, and insomnia. Chuck Hayes and his wife Jane were standing under the skywalks when the walks collapsed. "If I allow my mind to wander," said Chuck, "it wanders back to that night. I can see the walkways falling, the concrete, everything hitting us." Jane suffered a broken leg, internal injuries, broken hips, and broken ribs. She spent nearly 4 months in the hospital. Chuck, who was released after her, had crushed bones in both legs. 2 vertebrae in his back had been shattered. Chuck made it home in time for Thanksgiving. Ever since the Hyatt disaster, he has been giving thanks.